Welcome to my channel, 言之有味. I'm Walt. Today we're going to use puff pastry to make mung bean cake, flour cake, and meat floss cake. Those are the ingredients that we're going to use today.
Let's start by preparing the most important element of the dish, the puff pastry. First, we'll pour the medium gluten flour into a bowl, then mix with granulated sugar and small amounts of butter. After mixing them thoroughly, we can directly pour in boiled water and quickly stir it into a flaky dough. Then, we can start kneading the dough by hand. Gradually press the dough until it becomes firm. Then, shape it into a ball and cover it with plastic wrap. Let it rest for 10 minutes to let the dough relax. This is how we make the outer dough for the pastry.
Next, we'll prepare the puff pastry.
Since we're using a relatively large amount of butter here, we'll first soften it by placing it in a hot water bath. You can use chopsticks to stir it occasionally to quicken the softening process. Then, we'll pour the melted butter into the low gluten flour. We'll mix it quickly and thoroughly. Then, press by hand and shape it into a round ball. We'll put it in the bowl and cover it with plastic wrap to let it relax. Now it's time to fold the puff pastry. We'll want to roll the outer dough into a long strip. Since it has rested, it is now very easy to shape. Then, we'll divide it into 10 equal portions of dough. Similarly, the inner butter mixture also needs to be divided into 10 round balls, matching the number of puff pastry portions. First, take one portion of the dough, flatten it in your palm, and wrap it around one portion of the inner butter mixture. Pinch the edges tightly to seal. Repeat the same process for the remaining 9 portions.
Now let's start to roll and fold the puff pastry for the first time.
Sprinkle some flour on the board to prevent sticking. Take a small dough portion that's been wrapped around the butter with the sealed edge facing up, and use a rolling pin to roll it out from the center towards the top and the bottom. Then, roll up the flattened dough tightly, pressing the edges towards the center from both sides. Repeat this process on all the portions. Place them in a container and cover it with plastic wrap and let them rest for 10 minutes. The second rolling is a repetition of the first rolling. Roll out the rested dough portions with the sealed side facing up and roll them up just like the first step. Place them back into the container and let it rest for another 10 minutes. The steps for the third and fourth rolling are the same as the first one. Now that the pastry dough is done, let's move on to prepare the fillings. First, let's make the rose flour filling. Pour the rose sauce into a sieve and use a spoon to press out most of the syrup, leaving the edible petals behind. Transfer those petals into another bowl. Heat a non-stick pan and add low gluten flour and glutinous rice flour into the pan. Stir fry them over low heat until they turn slightly yellow and gives off a nice aroma. Pour the slightly roasted flour and corn oil into the bowl with the flower petals. Mix them thoroughly and divide them into portions. Place them in the refrigerator to chill until they become firm. This will make it easier for us when making the flour cakes later on. Next, let's prepare the filling for the meat floss cake. This is pretty simple, as you just need to mix the meat floss with the Thousand Island dressing and place it in the refrigerator to chill. Next, let's make our mung bean fillings. This is a mung bean that I already soaked last night. Add the soaked mung beans into a pot. Pour in water, making sure that the water level is one joint higher than the mung bean level. Add some lemon juice and simmer over low heat. Continuously stir and press the mung beans to check if they are fully cooked, that is, when they can be easily mashed. Once they are fully cooked, add sugar for a bit of seasoning, then close the heat and let it cook with the residual heat. After it fully cools down, take out the mung beans and pour it into a blender to blend it into a paste. In a pot, melt some lard. Then add the prepared mung bean paste and stir fry it until it gets a bit dry. Then transfer the mixture onto a plate and let it cool on the side. Now we're moving on to the final step of wrapping the filling. Take out one portion of the dough and flatten it out. This is the meat floss filling. Place it in the center of the pastry dough. Then slowly fold the sides of the pastry dough and close it on the top, using your fingers to firmly seal the edges and prevent the filling from leaking out. Place the seal edge downwards. Similarly, let's make one with a mung bean filling. Lastly, let's make one with a rose filling. Preheat the oven to 170 degrees Celsius. Take out the baking tray and brush some plant oil on the bottom. Evenly place the prepared cakes on the tray and brush oil on top of them as well. Once done, place them in the oven and set a timer for 20 minutes, still 170 degrees Celsius. When the time is up, flip them over and brush another layer of oil on top. Because I didn't fold the bottom of the cakes very well, some of the cake's filling are leaking out. At last, return them to the oven and bake for another 10 minutes. The time has finally come. Let's take out the cakes from the oven. The principle of making puff pastry lies in the difference in fat and water content between the outer dough and the inner butter. After repeated folding, Hundreds of layers of the dough and the butter will form. During baking, the water in the dough evaporates due to the high temperature, causing the layers to separate and create such a distinct and crispy crust. The pastry is indeed very crispy, as you can see. It crumbles easily when eaten. The texture complements with the dense filling inside perfectly and creates a very nice taste.
Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.